Okay, it looks like we're right at 12 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Navigating Special Needs Family Training Session 8, where we will be going over finding resilience and hope. So welcome, and I hope everyone's doing well today. We'll go over some Zoom logistics. Please keep your microphones muted unless you are talking. Keep your video on unless you need to do something private, and we would like to see everybody's faces if we can. If you have questions for the speaker, please use the chat button in the center of the screen, and we will try to get to those. The facilitator will gather questions for the discussion period at the end. Our discussion guidelines are to share the air and keep confidentiality, speak from your own experiences, and only give advice if asked. And if there are things that we need to put in the parking lot for later, we will do so. Advance the screen. Okay, and then you do have the option to please rename yourself. Be sure your first and last name is in your video square. You can find your name or device on the participant list. Click on More and Rename, or click on the 3 little dots in your video square to rename yourself. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce Rachel Charlo, who will be our speaker today. And Rachel is an early access service coordinator, program assistant, and family navigator at Child Health Specialty Clinic. She and her husband live in Arcadia and have 3 awesome children. Her youngest, who is now 13, is on the autism spectrum. Rachel is also a personal trainer and a yoga instructor at a local gym. Rachel is passionate about helping other families find support and be resilient.
Thank you, Jill. I'm so excited to be with you today to talk about one of my favorite topics, resilience and finding hope. So here we are in this final session. We have gone through a lot of different topics. We have learned how to navigate the world of special needs. We've learned how to communicate well with others, with our providers, with our schools. We've heard incredible stories of family strength. And I feel like today, as we talk about resilience and hope, it's kind of that thread that binds it all together, because I really truly feel like resilience and hope are what keep us going. They're the strength that we find as families when we just want to sit down and stop. We've also learned to connect to one another, and we'll find an opportunity to do that today. But I hope as we come away from this webinar series, you continue to reach out, continue to find opportunities to connect with other families. And as we'll talk about later, this is really a strength and something we can develop as family to keep finding that resilience and hope. So I wanted to start with a little joke, because what's more resilient than finding humor in the difficult situations in life? So who can relate, right? Sometimes we're just working to keep it all together. We're just trying to breathe through it all and just meet the needs of everybody in our life. And sometimes that's just not possible. But it's really important that we meet the needs of ourselves, and that's what we'll dive in today. So I'll be honest, I've been doing some presentations on resilience and self-care for the last 3 years, but it's a huge topic and it's overwhelming. So I hope this is just the spark or the starter place for you to really develop this in your own life and to find out what it means for you. I believe that resilience is a balance of strength and vulnerability, a balance of wisdom and continual learning and continual growth. So no matter where you're at today, whether you're newly diagnosed or waiting on that diagnosis, or your child is in that transition age, or somewhere in the middle of navigating middle school, high school, and even moving into adulthood. And what does independence look like? We all have opportunities to grow. And the other important piece of resilience is that it's a modeling process. We're showing others in our life how to handle and navigate the stress that we're going through. We're modeling that for our child, and really has a huge impact on their personal growth as well, as they see that in you. So here's what science and what the world of psychology really tells us are some strategies for resilience. Now, if you go and Google resilience, you're going to get 10, 15 steps to personal resilience, and it's going to encompass a lot of things. But for me, these are somewhat nondescript. So what are you talking about? What do we do? How do we really find that resilience? So what the science has told us, that social support, well-being, positive emotions, and finding meaning are important steps to resilience. But I want to dig a little bit deeper and talk about what those really are. So finding that social support is really about finding out who is in your network. It's finding support at all levels. So what this looks like is finding people who can support you in the different areas of your life. I remember in Jill's story how she talked about finding that person, I can't remember if it was the AA or the school, that she could talk to and ask questions, and that person was open and honest with her. As family navigators, we also talk about finding a support network by asking families, who would you call if you need a cup of sugar? What would you do if you had an emergency in the middle of the night and you needed someone to come and care for your child? Or who do you talk to when you have unbelievable stress in your life? Who do you decompress with? We need to think about those different level supports. And sometimes as family members, we have some hesitancy with that. We have a little trouble maybe trusting people in our life to be able to know and care for our child the way that we do. And I want to encourage you to let go of some of that. I want you to encourage you to take a leap of faith and to allow people in your life to become more of a support. Now, for example, I might ask my next door neighbor for a cup of sugar. But right now, I probably wouldn't ask her to, if I was feeling a lot of stress around my child. Now, my next door neighbor happens to be a mental health professional. There's the opportunity there for me to develop that relationship, get to know her better, allow her to know my child, and for her to be a source of support. We also want to think about balancing those formal and informal supports. Have you ever found yourself in your therapist's office for your child talking about how stressed you are and crying? Been there more times than I care to admit. That really showed me that I had a lack of informal supports. And what I mean by informal supports are friends, family, and people in our life that we can talk to. Now, it's okay to break down on your therapist every once in a while. Not saying there's anything wrong with that. But you want to be able to have people that you can talk to that understand what you're going through. And if you don't have that source, developing that. We're also thinking about community supports and bringing your child and your family into the world, into the community to look at that. I think of families during the time of this pandemic that have lost some of their formal supports or those paid supports in their life, in the loss of respite. They could no longer have someone come in and care for their child. And they really had to redefine or rethink about who is in our life and who can support us through that process. And especially as we move into those transition ages into adulthood, we want to constantly have this lens about who is there to support us. You know, this could be your church family, this could be a next door neighbor, but developing that. And then finding your tribe. So I wanted to give you a little bit of an example from history about the idea of finding your tribe. In the early 1900s, disability was viewed very differently. Often families felt guilt or shame or embarrassment around their child's disability. This led to a lot of isolation. Families didn't engage in their communities. Often children either were somewhere in the home and didn't spend much time outside of the home, or they were put into an institution right from birth. I can't even imagine what that's like, being told that your child can't live with you and going to live in a separate facility. But self-advocates in the 1950s and 1960s led a grassroots effort in advocating for the development of community-based supports and services. So during this time, the parent movement in the disability field, it was really gaining strength and momentum. Parents organized to support each other and speak out for their sons and daughters with disabilities. Families strongly supported the idea that their child was not broken and did not need to be removed from their home or to be fixed. These parent groups were the first to bring disabilities issues of segregation, lack of education and training, and lack of support to legislators and educators. The parents highlighted the need to create a system of support that would enable their sons and daughters to go to school and receive the necessary services, the services that we've been talking about for the last almost 4 months, to live as a family. And I share this history to talk about finding your tribe, finding those who get it and understand what you're going through. And I find this unique across all disabilities. We can have some common ground or common struggles, a lot of common emotions, and feelings that sometimes it's just nice to get it out in a safe space. And this can look like joining a support group. This can look like just finding another parent to talk to, and also beginning to develop this in your community. Do others have this need that's unmet, and thinking about that? So I wanted you to just feel what it's like to have a tribe. You may already have a tribe, but we want to be able to kind of get an experience or a taste of that. So in a minute, Diana's going to put us into breakout rooms. We're going to be in groups of two in each room. We'll have 10 total minutes, but each person will have 5 minutes. In those 5 minutes, I would like you to share something in the last week or 2 or month that has happened with your child or family. This could be a situation at school, a situation in the community where someone did not understand your child's disability, and maybe you felt some judgment or frustration in that situation. Whatever it is, when the speaker is talking, I ask that the listener just be quiet, and you can provide some verbal cues that you're listening, or, oh, I know, things like that, and give some feedback that way, and really allow that person the space and the blessing of 5 minutes to just talk about that. At the end, we'll switch. If for some reason you were to be done early, you can talk a little bit about how that felt, but we're really going to come back together and talk about it. Encourage you to fill those 5 minutes. It's hard to talk about yourself sometimes for 5 minutes, but find that time. So, Diane, are we ready?
We are, and when the 5 minutes is up and it's time to switch, you'll see a little message come into your breakout rooms. Did I get that right, Rachel? 5 minutes, and it's time to switch. Okay, here you go. It's like Christmas. You don't know who you're going to get. Okay, there they all went. So Suzanne and Jill.
We're back.
Welcome back.
You made it through the portal.
It does kind of feel like that, doesn't it? Little Star Trekky. Here comes Katie and Megan.
Yep, I'm on a Zoom, so. Oh, don't worry,
Okay. believe that's everyone, Rachel.
All right, welcome back. So what I think I'm going to do is just drop in the chat and tell me how that felt. Jill, if you want to monitor that and kind of tell us what the feedback is. I want to know what you thought, how you felt. What did you notice that maybe didn't occur to you? An unintended benefit.
Good to be able to share. Susan said. Great knowing someone else is going through a similar experience or has gone through a similar experience. Alicia says it's also nice to share your story with others who get it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for obliging me in doing that. It's often hard to talk about yourself. As we transition to self-care, we're really thinking about how to find well-being. This is a whole person approach, just as we would approach our children with a whole person approach. They're not their diagnosis. They are a person with many different needs. We are as well as caregivers. And oftentimes the analogy is used of putting on your own oxygen mask before you put on others. Well, that analogy is very fitting and is a great way to view it. We want to think about self-care as something we do before that need for oxygen is there, before the plane is going down, before there's difficulty, and before that stress gets out of control. So when we think about self-care, we think about taking care of ourselves in a variety of ways. We are not one-dimensional. We are mind, body, and soul. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute and how we can really look at those different aspects of ourselves and care for those dimensions. You also have to develop what works for you. I could tell you my self-care plan and you go, that's not something I enjoy. I don't think I would do that. Or I could give you a list of hundreds of things and you maybe could choose a few. But you really have to do a lot of self-evaluation to find out what works for you. And we're going to look at a plan to do that. And then the important sign in not getting to that need for the oxygen mask is recognizing the signs of stress. Those can be things like when you are snapping at everybody, when you're irritated, when you're feeling anxiety that is beyond the normal for you, it becomes unmanageable. Feeling exhausted even though you've had sleep and should be rejuvenated, depending too much on caffeine and other stimulants, oh, that one hurt. If you just can't think clearly or having difficulty making decisions, those can all be signs that you're not caring for yourself, and we want to develop a plan to improve. So here's a self-care action plan. What we decided was we were going to go ahead and email this out to you after the presentation, but Diane, I think, is going to drop a PDF in the chat if you can grab it. Sometimes people can and sometimes they can't, but you will get a copy. So this self-care plan looks at different aspects of ourself, that physical or psychological or mental health needs, emotional, spiritual, relationship, and workplace, and then our overall balance in that. So I kind of wanted to give you some thought starters with each of these different areas. Self-care in the practice of physical can look like healthy eating, or eating that nourishes your body and gives you energy. Exercise, whatever that is. Stress management, having ways to deal with the stress. And then also being aware of not relying too heavily on things that are not healthy for us, and thinking about in terms of our physical body. Like if you use, alcohol to decompress, that's okay, but what is that balance in our life, and is this a healthy practice for me? Psychological looks like having healthy boundaries. Thinking about our, in terms of social media and our interaction just with media in general, are these effects on us healthy or are they not? And how do we step back from that and maybe still stay informed but keep that healthy balance? Maybe going places or interacting with people that frustrate me or cause me anxiety. And so being aware of that, and if we need to go to those places, how do I care for my mental health during that? And then building a routine, something that helps move our day, move our lives. And self-care is really rooted in routine. If you can make an action plan and schedule something into your life, you are far more likely to follow through. And bringing in the idea of accountability. Find somebody who has that similar plan or somebody who knows you well and will keep you accountable. I noticed you didn't work out today. You need to go do that. Take that time for yourself because as family members, we're often apt to say, my children need me right now, or I have to do this, or they need this. But we have to be able to ask for help. We have to be able to have someone be able to speak the truth back to us. Emotional self-care looks like reflecting on my emotions. Have you ever had an emotional reaction and been like, where did that come from? Why was that so intense? There may be something behind that and something deep-rooted. Maybe it looks like just having a good cry or watching a movie that will allow that to happen. Talking with a friend, connecting with others. Self-talk is a huge part that we'll talk about later, and laughing. Spiritual practices look like mindfulness, meditation, prayer, journaling, and finding a community. Relationships, again, are healthy boundaries, people that help us to grow and to move forward, connecting with others. And practicing kindness is really a relationship builder and a relationship self-care. Workplace is finding balance, asking for help, and really a place where we receive validation sometimes. So just thinking about those in your self-care practices. And then we look at the idea of finding hope. Hope is forward thinking. It fuels us to keep going when we would rather be swallowed up by the here and now. Hope calls to us in those moments and keeps us moving forward. It's something you have to develop. One essential skill in finding hope is finding meaning or purpose. You may have heard of the 5 stages of grief by David Kessler, and he developed what he calls the 6th stage of grief, which is finding meaning or purpose. This can be helping other families navigate an IEP. This can be just feeling confident in your interactions with your medical doctor. We heard wonderful examples in Jill's presentation and also in Clem last session, talking about just being able to speak up for what her and her child need. These are all strategies for being hopeful. They gave us purpose, and it really helps us as we walk on our journey. We go from our own experience in ups and downs to helping others with ups and downs. And then we develop that growth mindset. The growth mindset believes that you're in control of your own abilities and the things you achieve. They're part of hard work, effort, and persistence. With the growth mindset, we practice gratitude. We find ways to reframe the negative things that have happened. We find the positives. So if we had time, I would ask you to go back into your groups and really talk about, what did you learn from that difficult situation? What happened? What could you do differently? And this really comes and ties back into self-care. If you don't have time to think and process what is happening with your own emotions and with your own physical response to things, then you miss out on those opportunities for growth. And then positive reframing can be a great way to take a difficult situation and look at it in a positive light. I often do this through self-talk. And hopefully, you never heard me talking to myself, and I try to do it when nobody's around, but sometimes I just have to talk myself through something like, is this a big deal? Should you get upset about this? What can you do? And then I try to take the perspective of others. What are they feeling? What are they thinking? Why are they holding their ground? Why is the school refusing to budge? Or why are they not providing this accommodation when I ask them? Had that experience lately. It's something that will just help us to navigate those big emotions. And then one last thing that has really been eye-opening to me, I've been reading Jay Shetty's book, Think Like a Monk. If you ever get an opportunity, it's a fabulous book. But he talks about doing a values check. So he says that no matter what you think your values are, your actions really tell the story. Doing a value audit in 3 areas, your money, your time, and your media, are ways that we can check in with, do our actions really follow our values and what we say? So this is kind of a gut check for me. When you look at, this is a infographic he put together about comparing some of the things that we say. I can't afford to do that, but what are we really spending our money on? I can't afford to eat healthy, but I'm paying this for something else when I could be using that money that's going to help me feel better and care for my child. And then thinking about the time that we're spending in different areas when we could be spending that on self-care activities. So it's just a way to take that self-care and think about, is this a value we have? And if we don't value ourselves, others will not value us. It's so important to take care of ourselves first, and so others will see that and see that you truly do care for yourself, but it will come out in your interactions. You'll be more able to manage the stress and to manage those difficult situations. And then one last strategy that is rooted in science is mindfulness-based stress reduction. This is everywhere, so you guys have probably heard it, MSBR, or just mindfulness for short. There was a study done by the National Institute of Health that took 2 parent groups, 243 total, but they split them into 2 groups. One group did a parent development curriculum that really based on managing stress, working on emotions like guilt and conflict and worry, and focusing on building character strengths like gratitude and forgiveness. But they gave them both an opportunity to practice. And they took the group that did just mindfulness-based stress reduction and the group that did the parent curriculum, and they compared them. And the results were that a positive, there was the parents who practiced mindfulness were better able to manage stress, they were healthier, they were able to care for their child, and they were able to deal with stresses as they came up. So we're going to do a little exercise that involves mindfulness. And you may have received a packet in the mail that had some other mindfulness activities. Mindfulness is really anything that tunnels your focus towards one thing. So it can be breath, it can be eating, but it's really a practice of taking out the external and bringing things into focus, and can be a way for you to begin to focus your mind and to find calm in the midst of stress. So I would like you to just get comfortable in your seat. You can keep your eyes open or closed. And take a few gentle breaths. That breath should come from the belly, nice and deep, in through the nose and out through the mouth. And just relax. Let go. Just continue breathing for as long as you wish. Now take your mind outward. See your thoughts, your feelings, your moods, and sensations as objects floating down a gentle stream. They're coming into view and they're vanishing from sight. Simply watch without judgment or analysis. Just watch them pass. Now pluck an object from the stream. That would be one of your thoughts, feelings, moods, or sensations, and focus on it. Let the other sensations and thoughts go by in the background. Note any new thoughts or feelings that arise from observing this object. Sit with these thoughts and feelings for a moment. Now, when you're ready to leave this object behind, simply deposit it on a leaf and let it float downstream. And I want you to envision it floating farther away from you with each passing breath. And bring your awareness back to the present moment. So I hope that that example of mindfulness, just one of many, can lead you down a path of finding what's right for you in this area. I wanted to share with you some resources for mindfulness. There's things like Calm, Headspace, Abide. If you're a Fitbit user, they now have this app in your, or they have this in the app in your user profile. They also have a quick breathing setting. So you get on there and put your hand on it, and it'll buzz when you breathe in and buzz when you breathe out. You can also do a nice easy 4-count breath, 4 counts out. There's lots of different breathing techniques. So just explore what's right for you. Find a space in your day when you can do these without interruption. Most of the time they're under 5 minutes. If you want to explore meditation a little bit deeper, you can find more resources out there. But just finding a short time to do it to start is helpful because it really is a practice. It's a little hard to shut your mind down initially. And then finding support is essential. I thought about support groups. These are opportunities to connect with other families. These can look like connecting through social media, or right now there's a lot of virtual support groups going on. I'm not in the know about all of those, but here are some places where you could potentially find listings of support groups in the state. And last session, we sent out a disability-specific organization chart that kind of listed everybody in the state. If you would reach out to those organizations, I'm sure they'd be happy to let you know what support groups are going on in the state. And then utilizing resources to meet those needs. So I put here children at home. This is just kind of one of potentially others in the state. This would provide an opportunity for you to get some respite. If you don't have the waiver, respite is really difficult right now. Some of your community-based organizations might have what they call parent timeout. So, you know, connect with them and see what's available in your community. Even if it's a little bit of time, it's time well spent for you and caring for yourself. They also cover camps and then, you know, just other needs. It's really a program that has a lot of possibilities, and you can kind of request some of those other things and just give them a call and they'd be willing to help you figure out how they can meet that need. And then the Psychology Today website is a search engine, has a search engine to help you find a therapist in your area. You can go there and put your zip code or the name of your city, and they can help you to find a local therapist or get connected with a family navigator or a family educator partner in your school. And it's really important to reach out and talk to somebody if you need to. If things feel a little bit more than you can handle, or you need an opportunity to process out loud and to you know, work on some different cognitive behavioral techniques in order to manage your stress, there is no shame in asking for help. And we should want to do that and be willing if we can. So please know that that is an important part of self-care as well. And then the Iowa Worm Line, it is staffed with those with lived experience, and they're just willing to talk to you. And then Your Life Iowa is a crisis line now. You can call or text. Do you guys know anything about these resources? Anything you want to add? Had experience? And this is certainly not comprehensive. But we'll get these slides out to you too as well, so you can, if you need any more information or want to remember those. And we'll kind of wrap back around and have Diane talk a little bit more about this, but the Iowa Family Leadership Training Institute is a training institute for families that are really looking to move into an advocacy, a stronger advocacy, maybe at the state or a national level, and really looking to grow as a family leader. And Diane will give us a little bit more information on that in a minute. All right, if you guys would unmute yourselves. Any questions? And I'll let you take over, Jill.
Looks like Diane has put some resources in the chat box. Are there any questions for Rachel?
And, you know, like I said earlier, I am not an expert, so if there's some tip for resilience that you have found in your own life, we'd love to hear that and love you to share it with everybody.
Or what do you want to remember? Does anyone have something they want to share that they want to remember?
This is Martha, and one thing that resonated with me that I don't think I'd heard before, that how important routine is to wellness, that's part of wellness, in fact, to create a routine to do any of those domains that Rachel mentioned.
Thank you guys so much. You are a very gracious audience.
Okay. So if there aren't any questions, then
Go back and let Diane talk about.
yes, we're going to let Diane talk about a few things coming up.
Great. While I do that, Rachel, would you go out and grab the eval link? So I'm happy to tell you a little bit about Iowa Family Leadership Training Institute and encourage you to apply. Amira and Jill and Jody are alumni, and Martha and Rachel and I have been trainers for this 4-session family leadership training opportunity where we learn about leading in our own families, how to lead better in the community to make the system of care for children with special needs better, and then even leading out into the systems. We go to talk to our legislators. This is a 4-weekend training in usually March, April, May, June, and we are recruiting for it now. We'd be happy to have you apply. There's a link on that application form there. And this year we are really hoping to meet in person. The cohorts really enjoy getting together for a drink after sessions, and they say staying overnight without their family is a real blessing. So we're hoping. We're going to try to do some socially distant, safe ways of being together. And if not, we would move on. We'll move back onto virtual. So there's some FAQs there if you have questions about it, and an application link. Another thing I'd like to tell you about is starting next Friday is another training series. This is, we're joined by the DD Council and the UCED, University Center for Excellence on Development and Disabilities, and putting on a transition to adulthood webinar series for families of youth and with special healthcare needs. This is designed for youth that are, if you have a child that's 12 to 21, although you can attend if you're looking ahead to that era, that time. And we're talking about what happens when you leave home, living, learning, and working, legal and financial rules of the road, how to apply for Social Security, how to establish an estate planning for your child. Derek Willis is going to talk to us about how to promote self-determination in your child. How do you encourage your child to advocate for themselves as they grow up and transition to adulthood? There'll be a woman from the Department on Aging who has a nice presentation on guardianship and shared decision making. And then to wrap up, we'll have 2 special things: a panel of youth who have been through transition with their parents, and they will be facilitated by Judy Worth, who is a very engaging, entertaining staff person. And in the evening then, the DD Council will host a showing of Intelligent Lives, which is a documentary of youth that has transitioned to adulthood, and there'll be a discussion after that. So that's the transition to adulthood flyer that I dropped there in the chat, and you'll get that by email too if it's easier for you to read. Any
Diane, there was a question if there's a charge for IFLTI?
Right, there is $100 application fee, but after that, all of your meals and lodging are taken care of, and we have a discussion with you when you apply, and if you need a scholarship, that's a possibility. And we also talk about childcare and travel if that is needed. So don't let finances keep you from applying. And the transition to adulthood is virtual, of course, so there's no charge for that as well. We have a real nice grant for training families, and this is one of the things that we do with it. Any other questions about the trainings?
I also wanted, I forgot to speak to Ask Resource Center is doing a series of webinars about asking each other, I think is what they're calling it. Maybe we can send that out, but that's a place for families to come together and just ask each other about things that are concerning them.
Yeah, let's do. They're good at matching folks together, making mentor pairs.
Someone says, yes, links are open on the website and the Facebook page, Alicia says.
Alicia Carwall, is that you?
Mm.
You can unmute yourself and tell us about it if you'd like.
Please do.
Sorry, I'm in the car pickup line, so I don't know how noisy it is here. My kids have early out on Fridays. Yes, so it's just something that is kind of new. We're going to deep dive into 4 of the big return to learn topics, and it's really meant to be more of a sorry, there's a little car interaction going on here.
That's okay.
It's really meant to be more of sharing between families than it is as presenting, if that makes sense. It's really more about connecting families.
That's so great,
This particular
Alicia.
series.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And
You're
go to
welcome.
the Ask Resource Center website for that. And if I could just say,
in the chat too.
okay, thanks, Leisha, if you can. Yeah, that'd be great. If I could just express my appreciation to all of you for this is the last training of this series, and we were really grateful that you joined us early on in the pandemic here to try training in a different way. We really do like to have in-person trainings in different areas of the state because it builds relationship and works on that resilience and the tribe that Rachel was talking about. But this is what we can do for now. And so we thank you for joining us. And we have your emails now, and we'll let you know of upcoming trainings that we have. We are also always open to ideas that you have that you would like to receive training on. So do let us know. Jill, do you have anything else?
I don't think so. Thank you to
Okay.
everyone. And there's the survey to please fill out, and have a wonderful weekend.
Take care, all. Bye-bye. There's Alicia. We get to see her a little bit. Bye. Yay.
Great job.
You did a good job, Rachel. Oh, let's stop the recording.